In the humid, heavy air of Mississippi, summer 1955, a story began that America would never forget. A 14-year-old boy from Chicago, full of life and laughter, traveled south to visit family. His name was Emmett Till. He was on a simple vacation, an adventure into a world far different from his own. But this trip would not end with happy memories. Instead, it would become one of the most horrifying and pivotal moments in the nation's history, a chapter written in tears and blood. What started as a boy's journey into the heart of the South would end as a martyr, a sacrifice that would shake the conscience of a country. On the 24th of August, Emmett, perhaps feeling bold and unaware of the invisible lines he was about to cross, walked into a small grocery store in the town of Money, Mississippi. Behind the counter was Carolyn Bryant, a 21-year-old white woman. The exact details of their interaction are shrouded in conflicting accounts and the passage of time. Was it a whistle? A casual, friendly word? A simple, boyish gesture? We may never know for certain. But in the Jim Crow South, where racial hierarchy was enforced with brutal violence, the truth didn't matter as much as the accusation. In that suffocating climate of hate and segregation, even a whisper could be a death sentence for a black boy, and for Emmett Till, that brief, fateful encounter had sealed his doom. For nights later, darkness fell not just on the Mississippi Delta, but on the very soul of humanity. In the dead of night, Carolyn's husband, Roy Bryant, and his half-brother, J.W. Millam, armed and driven by racist fury, arrived at the home of Emmett's great-uncle, Mose Wright. They kicked down the door, their presence a violent intrusion into the sanctity of a family's home. They were looking for the boy from Chicago. They dragged Emmett from his bed, ignoring the desperate pleas of his family. His relatives begged for his life, pleading for mercy, promising he meant no harm. But their words were lost in the night. There was no room for mercy in the hearts of those men. That night, in Mississippi, hatred had a voice, and it was screaming for vengeance. They drove him away into the suffocating darkness to a barn on a secluded plantation. There, in the shadows, an unspeakable horror unfolded. They beat him relentlessly, tortured him beyond recognition, and finally, they shot him in the head. To hide their crime, they bound his ravaged body to a heavy cotton gin fan with barbed wire and threw him into the cold, murky waters of the Tallahatchie River. For 3 long days, the river held its grim secret. When his body was finally discovered, it was a grotesque and heartbreaking sight. His face was so mutilated, so disfigured, he was almost unrecognizable. The boy who had arrived in Mississippi with a smile was now a testament to the absolute depths of human cruelty. When Emmett's small body was shipped back home to Chicago in a pine box, his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, was faced with an impossible choice. The authorities in Mississippi wanted the casket sealed to bury the horror along with her son. But Mamie, in an act of profound grief and astonishing courage, made a decision that would change the course of history. She refused. "Let the people see what I've seen," she declared. She insisted on an open casket funeral. She wanted the world to bear witness to the brutal reality of racism, to see the face of hate. Thousands of mourners filed past the casket, their shock and sorrow turning to outrage. Then, Jet magazine published the haunting, unforgettable photograph of Emmett's mutilated face. Suddenly, America could no longer look away. The image was a punch to the gut of the nation, forcing a comfortable and complacent country to confront the monster in its midst. In the sweltering heat of September 1955, Roy Bryant and J.W. Millam stood trial for the murder of Emmett Till. The trial was a farce from the beginning, held in a segregated courthouse before an all-white, all-male jury. The outcome was all but predetermined. The defense team argued that the body was too disfigured to be identified as Emmett, and even suggested the whole thing was a plot by the NAACP. Despite the brave testimony of Emmett's great-uncle, Mose Wright, who pointed directly at the defendants in open court, an act of incredible bravery that put his own life at risk, the verdict was swift. After just over an hour of deliberation, the jury returned not guilty, free to go. A few months later, protected by double jeopardy laws, Bryant and Millam sold their story to Look magazine, admitting in graphic detail how they had kidnapped and murdered the 14-year-old boy. They were free men bragging about killing a child. And the law could not touch them, but their acquittal was not the end of the story. It was a beginning. The blatant injustice of Emmett Till's murder and the subsequent trial sent shockwaves across the nation and the world. His death became a powerful catalyst, igniting the smoldering embers of the civil rights movement into a raging fire. His name became a rallying cry for justice and equality. Just a few months later, in Montgomery, Alabama, a seamstress named Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus. She later said that when she made that stand, she thought of Emmett Till. The memory of that boy, that child, fueled the courage of an entire generation of activists who would march, protest, and fight for the soul of America. Emmett's story is a harrowing symbol of how far hate can reach, but it is also a powerful testament to the enduring strength of truth and the unyielding demand for justice. Decades have passed, but the echoes of that summer in 1955 still reverberate. Justice for Emmett Till has remained elusive, a ghost haunting the American legal system. In a stunning discovery in 2022, an unserved arrest warrant for Carolyn Bryant, for her role in the kidnapping, was found in a dusty courthouse basement. She was still alive. An elderly woman living in North Carolina. Yet the warrant was never served. She passed away in 2023, never having faced legal consequences for her part in that fateful chain of events. The case remains a painful embodiment of the phrase, "Justice delayed is justice denied." Emmett Till's story is not just a relic of the past, it is a mirror reflecting the ongoing struggles for racial justice today. It reminds us that the fight against hatred is never truly over, and that we must never forget the boy whose sacrifice awakened a nation. Remember Emmett Till. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider subscribing to Silent Verdicts for more content that uncovers the truths that must never be silenced.